something uncomfortable happened in your life and your first reaction was to react. You either react by saying something verbally, or you feel that there's some sort of move that you need to make in your life in response, right? There's some sort of response that you have to make. And I'm here to talk about practicing another option, and we'll talk about those options. But this changed my life so massively, and it was probably, I could say, the practice that allowed me the space to become more reflective and introspective. Because my friends tell me all the time, Alex, how come every time crazy stuff is happening to you, you are able to just sit there and be like, oh, this is coming from this wound, or I can just detach from these things. They're like, how come you don't get as triggered as everyone else? And I really think that it is this one mental practice that took me a little bit to actually be able to truly implement. Like it's a practice, and that doesn't just mean that it's something that you do. It's something that you have to practice, and that's not always perfect. So, hey, my name is Alex. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. Let's get into it. So I'm going to tell you the story of how this technique practice was first introduced to me. I was in a yoga class at a yoga studio that I was applying for their teacher training program. And this was a big deal to me at this point in my life. And I was walking to the studio and ran into the teacher that I was going to have that night on the sidewalk. And they were like, they loved my outfit, they loved my energy, and so I'm going in there wanting to impress, whoever this teacher was. I had just run into them on the sidewalk, and I felt like they had these expectations of me, and I was very, very in my head, in my ego of what I needed to, the level of performance I needed to have in class, and the level of practice I needed to have, because yoga was my survival mechanism. Honestly, is my coping mechanism at this time in my life. Anytime I was feeling uncomfortable, I would just go do yoga in my house or outside or wherever. Yoga was my life. So this was supposed to be a very gentle yin class. If you've ever taken yoga, you'll know that yin is very gentle and kind of restorative, more accessible usually for people who might have physical limitations. Well, it's supposed to be very gentle and relaxing. This was an intensive one. So it was gentle poses, but very intensely executed and held for long periods of time. And so we get to this towards the end of class. We're just in very standard child's pose, which is where your knees are tucked under you and your arms are out flat and your head is just down on the mat. Almost like when your dog stretches, but if your bottom was on the ground. You could Google it if you don't know what child's pose is. Anyway, never in my life have I experienced anything like what I did this night. The teacher left us in this pose for so long in complete silence, maybe some music was playing in the background. Very dim lighting. It became so intensely, such an intense stretch in my hips that I started to wonder if my hips were going to fall off or break. I really started to wonder if I was doing damage to my body, which obviously is a sign that I should have relaxed and not been doing the pose so intensely. I should have lessened it a bit, but right before I went to, not because I truly felt that something was wrong, but because I was just so in my head about this discomfort I was feeling, I was about to move out of it a little bit and lessen the pose, and the teacher started talking, and she said, I'm going to paraphrase, that our first reaction to pain or discomfort is to move away from it, to get away from it. But we don't have to react like that. We can take our time, and we can think of a different way to react. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was literally just about to do that. And so I was like, okay, so I can sit here and I could think of another way to react. That's crazy. I had never, ever thought about this, that maybe I shouldn't react to things, that maybe I could, when I want to react to something uncomfortable, think about a different way to react. And so I'm processing this and I'm in, all this discomfort, and it's just really sinking in. And then she goes on to say, or you could choose to not react at all and simply wait and see what happens. Does the pain pass? Does it stay? What happens? You can choose to just not react at all and let things move the way they will. And I was like, dude, this is profound right now. And so I went out into my life, and I got accepted into their program, but things fell apart on my end, probably because I didn't feel that I truly truly deserved it. And it was like this big, it felt like my life was falling apart because this was supposed to be this next step in my life, and this was going to be a big thing for me, and everything falls apart, right? And I started practicing not reacting the way I normally would and thinking about the way that I wanted to respond to things more. So I wasn't really reacting anymore. I was just responding. And it took a while because, like when you get triggered, a reaction is being triggered within you. You've been programmed. You've programmed yourself to just respond instantly, just to react instantly. And so it did take several little triggers for me to be able to put it into practice and catch myself first. So it does take a little bit of time. Maybe for you it might be right away. I don't know. I'm just saying it can take some time. And sometimes you're getting really good at it, and then something else happens that triggers you in a different way, and maybe more intensely than the other things, and it goes right out the window and you react right away, and that's okay. It's your process. It's a practice. You got to take your time with it. So this changed my life big time. But what changed my life so much more and allowed me to have the space to become more introspective was then the practice of not reacting at all and choosing to just let some things pass. Because what I realized was that so many things would pop up and try and get a reaction from me. And even if I responded in better ways, I was still responding, and I was still interacting with old stories that were coming up. And I wasn't conscious of this at the time, but looking back, I can see that's what was happening. And so when I chose to just not participate in certain things anymore, it let those things die. This wasn't easy. This was not easy because, I was letting go of a lot, and so much of our identity can be tied to our social circles, these old ideas of who we are. And when we're trying to move into someone new, it's a lot for us to release our identity around how our identity is connected to some of these things. But honestly, this is the practice that led me to be able to take the time and space and get into a headspace of knowing that I'm supported in taking that time. I think that I used to feel like people would not accept me needing space. No, I know that. I know that. I felt that people would not accept that I needed space, or that I deserved space to think about things and process things. And so I was always reacting from my initial wounding, and I never had the chance to let my wounding settle and then react or respond or act or move from a more healed space. And this is what was so transformative, was I was acknowledging my wounding, letting it settle, and then saying, hey, I see you, but we're going to do this now, okay? We're going to try it this way. And that is how I made such profound changes in my life so rapidly. People are always like, Alex, you do 10 years worth of work in 1 year, right? Nobody takes the time, or nobody makes this progress as fast as you. And I'm like, I don't know, that's just the way my life has been, basically, is a short version. But the way that I give myself this time to do this allows me to capitalize on every opportunity. And this isn't to say that anyone needs to be practicing this in a similar capacity as me or way as me or compare yourself to me in any way. I'm just letting you know that it has potential to, it will transform your life. It's not just potential. If executed correctly, you can create such powerful change in your life rapidly. And then there's a balance to that too, because I would burn myself out with it and I would run myself into the ground, and then it became this like endless pursuit of tearing myself apart and trying to find everything that was wrong with me all the time. And it became very isolating, and it's only now that I'm working on a feeling that it's okay to like be healing while involved in other people's lives, whether that's like in a friendship capacity or otherwise. I just always felt like I had to isolate myself for my healing because it was just like too much. I don't know. It's like my own beliefs around it. So there's definitely a balance that needs to happen there. But I wanted to share these thoughts with you, this idea, this concept, and then share the results that I saw and the way I've seen it affect my life, because I started this, I think, in 2019, I believe. So it's been about 4 years. And in that, so I was living on the West Coast at the time, and I moved back to the East Coast in 2020. And so this was like summer of 2019. And then I moved back here the following summer. So in 1 year, I mean, actually looking back on it, within 3 to 4 months, I was transforming my life. I went from having major like financial scarcity to still having scarcity mindset, but providing for myself in a way that I had never done before, and at least feeling supported, even though I felt that I didn't deserve that much. Like I felt a lot more supported and I didn't have any issues manifesting what I did feel that I deserved, which was not abundance, but it was sufficient, if that makes sense. So it changed my life very quickly is what I'm getting at, because I think it was like maybe spring, and by fall, massive changes came in for me. So I think that's it. I think that's the video, you guys. This week was a little bit more mental focused than manifestation focused, but it's the same thing, it goes hand in hand. It's all integrated. So if you guys have specific manifestation topics that you'd like to hear about for next week or just going forward in the future, let me know. I put them on my request list, and I should be able to get to all of them. The only thing that stops me is when I have too many thoughts in my own head. So yeah, let me know what you'd like to hear me talk about. If there's anything I can expand upon or clarify for you, give examples of, I would love to see if I can make that video happen. Let me know in the comments how you're doing. Like I said, it's been wild. It's been wild lately. So I hope that you guys are all doing well whenever this video finds you. And thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next video.